What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I am back, obviously, from GenCon, and I wanted to do a recap and talk to you about what went down, what I saw, what I played, who I hung out with, all that good stuff. So I think probably the easiest way to do this is to probably just go through it day by day and kind of take you through my experience. Now, if you're unfamiliar, GenCon is often referred to as the biggest 4 days in gaming. It starts pretty much, the official con starts on a Thursday, and it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, although some stuff does happen on Wednesday. I got out to Indianapolis on Wednesday, and that's kind of when my Gen Con adventure started. Now, I had some interviews and scheduled meetings planned, and then a lot of it just kind of came together when I was at the convention. So, Wednesday, I got out there in the late afternoon, and there was a True Dungeon meetup. Again, these are True Dungeon tokens, these things you see over here. I'm a huge True Dungeon fan, so I went to the kind of meetup to see what people had, do some swaps and trades. And then ultimately, I ended up going and hanging out with some friends at one of the local bars. And that was kind of my Wednesday. Then Thursday morning, I woke up early. I decided to go and do some transmutation. Again, not going for True Dungeon, not going into it too much, but some of these tokens you can take and send away, usually in the mail, and then you'll get back some upgraded token. But you could do it in person if you're there. Gen Con was my first time ever doing that experience. It was nice and smooth, so I did that. Then the expo hall opened at 10 a.m., which is when it usually does. For regular, every day but Sunday, expo hall hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you may have noticed I didn't do any live streams of me walking around the expo hall like I normally do. And honestly, it's just because I was so packed with meetings, things to do, friends to see, that I just didn't have time to do that. I really wanted to, and I actually bought a new a new microphone just to do that, and I still didn't have any time to do so. So ultimately, I met up with my friends Sarah, aka the Hype Goblin, and Josiah, who you may know as Dungeon Dad here on YouTube, and we went over to test a board game that was developed by, I think, one of the art directors or somebody tied to Diablo. I want to say Diablo 4. It was called Mission Control. It was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that game. It's kind of like it's a 4-player game, but you could do teams. And somebody's basically an astronaut running out of air, and then like you all have to work together and coordinate to kind of try to save that astronaut. And we ultimately did, which was really cool. Then I kind of just spent the day walking around the expo hall, introducing, meeting people that I hadn't met before. Just kind of, getting the lay of the land. And then we, ended up getting lunch. And then ultimately at 6:30 that evening, I had a party that was over. I was at a local kind of barcade. Half of the party was for startplaying.games, or now it's actually startplaying.com. And the other half was from the Dungeon Dudes. And I ended up meeting a bunch of folks there that I hadn't met. Took some pictures with my friends who I play games online with, to send to some of the group that didn't make it. And then we actually ended up taking a big, massive picture of basically almost every D&D YouTuber that's out there. We all got one big picture. I think that's been posted. If not, I'll try to track it down and, get somebody to post it. I know they're looking to tag everybody in it. So from there, I stayed at that party for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I left that party with a group of 7 others, or sorry, I guess it was a group of 5 others, to head over to a different local barcade where WotC had a party. Now, some of you may have heard that WotC was going to do another content creator summit. We told you that because we were instructed that that was going to be the case when we were at the summit in April. We also, I think it was a post on D&D Beyond that was the case as well, that they were going to have another summit at Gen Con. No notification, at least myself, and I don't think anybody, excuse me, I don't think anybody else got any formal notification for like an actual summit, but we did get a notification of free booze and free food and a party where we could mingle with WotC employees. It was a pretty happening place. Some of you may have seen the picture of me and the Dungeon Dad with Brendan Lee Mulligan. That was at that party. And again, I talked to a lot of the different WotC folks. We played some games. We had a good time. Then from there, the large majority of us rolled out because we had an 11:24 time for a True Dungeon, and I had a whole slot, a group of 10 people. We all went and played True Dungeon. It was awesome. So that was pretty much my Thursday. We actually left the True Dungeon. A lot of us went back to the JW Marriott to go to a bar. Others just went back to their hotels after that. The True Dungeon is about a 2-hour experience. So it was about 1:30 in the morning when we got out of the True Dungeon. But it was a lot of fun. I love True Dungeon. We introduced some folks that had never done it before to True Dungeon. And a lot of us are veterans, and it just helped to fuel the True Dungeon fire a little more. But then again, most of us went back to a bar to just hang out and chat. Then we get to Friday. Now, Friday was going to be a big day because there was a lot of panels that I was going to be attending. Well, mostly 2 panels, 2 WotC panels, one about the 2024 rules revision, another about the Deck of Many Things book that was coming out. So I was pretty excited to see what was going to be said in those. Unfortunately, these were slightly hampered, I guess, or the overall effect of them was lessened as Saturday, or at least the discussions of AI art started to happen on Friday regarding Bigby's Glory of the Giants, so nothing was confirmed. I did attend the 2024 D&D rules revision panel. There was some new information revealed in there that was separate from the information that we received at the Content Creator Summit. I did an entire live tweet of that. Again, you can look at that if you follow me on Twitter. Otherwise, I will be making a video after the fact where I kind of go through all of that for those of you who don't use that platform so anybody can learn about it. I had a meeting with a team at Fanroll, which used to be Metallic Dice Games back in the day. They rebranded. They actually gave me a whole bunch of stuff, which is really cool. And we're going to be working together in the future. They gave me one of these kind of dice, trays, the fold-out dice trays that has a zipper that holds dice. And this is actually full of dice. They have a series called Misfit Dice, which is basically like a blind bag dice. You don't know what you're going to get. They have metal sets, mystery sets, mini sets where you get little tiny dice. So I actually did 3. We did like 3 separate unboxings, myself, and again, my good friend Sarah, the Hype Goblin. Those are over on TikTok. I'd put them on YouTube Shorts, but the videos are too long. So those are over on TikTok, but these are really cool. And then probably one of the coolest things are these. These, they have them in a couple of different colors. These dice are actually silicone dice, so they don't actually make any sound when you roll them. I'll see if I can you can see how I can kind of squish the die, because they're made out of silicone, so if you drop them on a table, they like bounce, and they don't make any noise, which I thought was really cool, and it's really unsettling to people if they don't know about it. It's also crazy because you can put them in a dice tower, and they won't make any noise coming down. Potentially really great for people who do podcasts, because you could roll them next to your microphone and they won't make any noise. But they have a lot of awesome stuff coming down the line from Fanroll. I'm excited to see it. And we might be working together to make some custom Nerd Immersion dice that you guys might be able to even pick up yourself. So be on the lookout for that. Then we had the Deck of Many Things preview, and this was one of the best panels I've been to. The energy in this was amazing. The 2024 rules revision panel was kind of very dry. I did have a Q&A, which I'll talk about when I do the other video, but the Deck of Many Things, I haven't been really excited for a WotC book in a long time. This panel changed my mind on that, and I don't know if it's a new team or different leads or what have you, but they are very passionate about this book, and it is very apparent. Awesome new storylines, sounds like cool new magic items. It looks really, really good. And again, kind of marred a little bit by the discussions around AI art. And again, the fact that it exists and it absolutely did happen. Again, I made another video on it, kind of going over what happened and the statements that were provided by WotC. But I think still at this point, it was still speculation. I also at this point had received from one of the folks at WotC, just kind of in passing, the collector's edition cover of Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants. So for those of you who want it, this is that book right here. I got this. If I get another collector's edition cover, I'll do a giveaway. But unfortunately, again, yeah, it is 100% true. There is, in fact, AI art used to enhance several of the pieces of art in here. Again, see the other video to learn more about it. Either way. Let's see. And then, unfortunately, I was supposed to do some play tests. That didn't really pan out for me that evening. But upon going out to dinner and having, meeting with a bunch of different folks, we attended Celeste Conowich of Cobalt Press. We attended her panel. She was doing a playtest of Tales of the Valiant on the live stream stage. So a bunch of us went to her live show. And then after the fact, we all went out to dinner. And then we actually convinced her late that night to run us through, I think it's either called Ruins or Cavern of the Spore Lord. It's the kind of one of the intro adventures for Tales of the Valiant. We convinced her to run that for us. So 3 or 4 of us sat down to learn to play with some pre-gen characters. Tales of the Valiant, learned some of I played a Kobold Druid. So I got to try out some of that stuff. That was kind of fun. And, we got to play test that a little bit. So now when I go to speak about the alpha release, which, by the way, where is it? The folks at Kobold were also nice enough to give me a printed soft cover version of the Tales of the Valiant alpha release, which I do still plan to go through. I know some of you had asked, so that's on my list. This does have just the Cleric, Fighter, Rogue, and Wizard. One of the other playtests out there does have the Ranger and the Druid, which again we will go through in a future video. I just have a lot of backlog and a lot of stuff to get through, and I'm working through that and also trying to do that without stopping doing that to just go play Baldur's Gate 3. So anyway, we got her to do that for us, which was awesome. Then Saturday morning, I got up early to do a True Dungeon. It was just me and then a group of 9 other randoms. I played a different adventure than the one we played on Thursday. Absolutely fantastic. Again, the True Dungeon team knocking it out of the park. It was great. Then I had a meeting with the folks from Evil Genius Games, and I will be doing a lot of coverage of their stuff in the future. They did give me this. This is Everyday Heroes. This is their core rulebook. It is essentially D20 Modern. If you're unfamiliar, back in the early 2000s, during the time of 3.5, D20 Modern was crafted, which is basically taking those D&D 3.5 rules and giving you a version of that fit into the modern day with technology and, firearms, planes, boats, cars, etc. But that they took that and then updated it because obviously, as you know, a lot has changed in the past 20 years. The existence of cell phones, Amazon one-day delivery, stuff like that. A lot of major changes. So this is the updated version of D20 Modern, but for 5e, and it actually brought back some of the original. I see Jeff Grubb's name here on the bottom. Some of the original team that designed, I think it's 2 members, Jeff being one of them, of the original team that originally made D20 Modern back in the early 2000s were brought on to make Everyday Heroes the updated version for 5e. I also really like this. I thought it's really cool. It's basically, essentially you could kind of think of it as if modern action movies was a game, essentially. They actually have a lot of the different classes, which I really like, or they're all tied to the different ability scores. So you have like tough, brawler heroes, which are like your strength-based heroes, and agile heroes, which are your dexterity-based. And then you have tough heroes, which are constitution, and then smart, wise, and then like social or whatever it is heroes. So different classes. And a lot of them are based on different archetypes, kind of more of like the the traditional. I think they like one of the strong heroes is like a person like the heavy gunner, and it's a person with a giant like oversized belt-fed machine gun that they told me was based off of Jesse Ventura's character from the first Predator movie, right? So it's a lot of them are based on like an archetype of an action hero that you've seen at one point or another. And what's really cool is this is the base game, But we had a long talk because they have a lot of really cool licensed properties. A couple that I can think of that they showed me they had there are Kong Skull Island, Total Recall, Escape from New York, Highlander, The Crow, stuff like this. All of these things are licensed products that they have, which is like a supplemental campaign setting, as it were. Oh, Pacific Rim, for example, as well. So they have all of those. So, like, you can play this as the base game and whatever kind of setup you want to have, but then you could take this and then combine it with the Crow source book, and then now you have rules to basically play a Spirit of Vengeance or Spirit of Death like the Crow. But it also has rules for other types of spirits, not just the Crow, things like moth, cat, snake, and so on. Same thing with, like, if you wanted to play in Pacific Rim, they have rules for Jaegers and being pair bonded and all that kind of stuff. If you want to be, a Highlander, that's a thing as well. But what's also really cool about all of those books, and again, I will be covering this in the future, but those are all, one, worked with either the producers or the writers of the given material. So, like, we're talking about, like, the producers of The Crow helped them develop the book, and they're all considered to be canon. So anything that you find in those books are considered canon to the given universe of that. So, like, for example, if you wanted to know more about the mutations and the mutants in Total Recall and how that happened and where it came from, that's explained in the book, right? And that's there, and it's canon material. So the other cool thing about it is, obviously, because they all use everyday heroes as a base system, those are all completely interchangeable. So you could be a Highlander that later on jumps into a Jaeger to fight kaiju, right? That's the thing. The other thing that's really cool about it is because it's based on 5e, they also designed it to be portable and what's that word I want to use? Modifiable? Modular, that's the word. So, like, if you wanted to just take the vengeance spirit aspect from the Crow source book and pop that into your existing traditional fantasy version of 5e, you could, right? Somebody who goes to Ravenloft or possibly, is a revenant or something, instead of using that, you could just use the Crow rules. And I also thought that was interesting because I've definitely played with people where when they describe their character to me, they're like, oh, he's basically like the Crow. Or this guy's basically like, a Highlander. And then you could be like, cool, here's the rules for that. We'll just add it in. So really cool stuff. More to come from, Everyday Heroes and the Evil Genius games. So that was a really good meeting that I had. Then I attended the Planescape preview. And then once again, that was even drier than a 2024 rules revision. I did a live tweet of that as well, although they didn't really provide us a lot of information about what was in it. They even at one point teased the concept of, like, we're going to talk about this later, and then they never came back to it. They also said there was no time for Q&A for that particular panel, and I wonder if that was because of the AI art kind of allegations had become in full swing. I think WotC had already released a statement, and I wonder if they thought that the questions were basically all going to be surrounding AI art, so they ended the questions. That's purely speculation on my point. They did say you could stay after and chat with folks, so that was an option you could have done. But, I attended that. They also gave us posters that showed off, like a Planescape poster, and the Deck of Many Things one had a Deck of Many Things poster that you got at the end for attending the panel. They were also both sold... excuse me. All of the panels were sold out. However, they also had room for people who, if at the end you didn't have tickets, they had extra spots for people to come in or stand in the back. So I attended that, and then I left that immediately to join my friend, the Dungeon Dad, and Sarah, the Hype Goblin, who, by the way, all these people that I'll be mentioning in the next little bit here, you should definitely follow on the various social medias. We went to a LARP that was put on by the Chicago LARP Society or something. It's not for me, right? At least their version of the LARP, not for me. It's what you think. It was what you thought. It was supposed to be like a LARP dungeon crawl where you went like room to room. But they only had limited number of people. So, like, the people would leave and then you'd fight them in the next room. And it was basically, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. It was like that. So again, not for me, but at least I can say I've LARPed. And then that evening, there was a bigger party over at Hunter's Entertainment, and Backer Kit Alchemy threw a big party over at a place called Nevermore, which I'd never been to before. I attended that party. I went and mingled and met with a bunch of friends there, and then ultimately left again to head to one of the local hotel bars to just have fun and hang out with some friends. And that'll take us basically to the last day, which was Sunday, and I crammed a ton of stuff into that Sunday. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier on, I did meet with Eldritch Foundry to interview them on Friday, or Thursday, maybe. So I do have a video and interview with them that I have to put up, so that'll be coming. I did an interview with the folks at Elderwood Academy to show off a bunch of the stuff that they have and the new stuff coming down the pike for them, so that'll be coming out at some point. And then I actually managed to get into a playtest of the Avatar RPG, the Avatar The Last Airbender RPG, which again uses a Powered by the Apocalypse system. So it's a quick half-hour demo. I got to play with some friends, again, with Josiah and Sarah again. You notice their names come up a bunch, and it's because they were the ones who kept getting to the con like earlier in the day, whereas a lot of our friends seem to sleep in late, so we were able to do stuff earlier in the morning. We did a half an hour demo. I do feel comfortable talking about that game now, having played it, so we can have some more Avatar RPG content here on the channel, possibly even a stream at some point, which could be fun. And then, we did that. We ended up going out to lunch, and then ultimately, after a little bit of shopping around the expo hall, I had to pick up some stuff for the kids. I also picked up, where is it? Oh, it's in this book. Here it is. I picked up the Avatar Legends Wan Shi Tong's Library expansion. And then I also found out that the Republic City expansion, which again is in the Avatar Korra time frame, is coming out later this year and should be out right around the time of PAX Unplugged, so which I will be at, which will be great. And then from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., we actually got a demo of Dragonbane, the new Free League RPG, which I just received all the books right before I left to come out here. And it is a fantastic system. I really, really enjoy it. And I actually got to play that with Jordan, with the PH is silent, Josiah, the Dungeon Dad, Sarah, the Hype Goblin, myself, Devin from Total Party Chill / Start Playing Games, and my good friend LB Hackemup, who you've seen, who also has her own channel, but you've seen her on things like Great Modron March and Route of 7 Parts. So that was our team of 6. We got to play with a really awesome dude, is AKA Mr. Dragonbane, a guy who's run over 200 hours in the Dragonbane system, over 60 sessions. So he was one of the best, most knowledgeable GMs that Free League had, and he ran us through a 3-hour session of their something on the Ritter Mound. It's basically the intro adventure of Dragonbane, so we got a really good handle on how the system works, and that's another thing that I now feel comfortable being able to talk about and dive into the mechanics and how to build characters and all that stuff, which was awesome. Left there to do some packing, when ended up back again at a hotel bar, and my good friend Greg Leatherman, that you know from Glitter Hearts as well as Very Random Encounters, one a podcast that I've been on, and then we featured Greg. Also, he was in the Vecna one-shot that I did here on the channel. He is working on an awesome kind of like Pokemon style RPG. It's obviously not Pokemon for legally distinct reasons from Nintendo, but he's demoing that, and it was a lot of fun. A bunch of us played it. The people that played were me, LB Hackemup, Sarah the Hype Goblin, Josiah, and then Taryn, aka Indestructible Boy, and myself. We all played Greg's game there, and we had an absolute blast doing that. And that was basically the end of the con for me. So, I was very busy. I didn't really buy too much. Like I said, I picked up the Wan Shi Tong's Library. I did some shopping for the kids. Got my youngest a sword, and my oldest a bunch of Pokemon cards that I didn't have. And then that was more or less all I did. And then was just run around and try to, I usually don't play any games at GenCon. Very rarely. I'm usually bouncing between things. But I actually got a chance to play 4 different games this time. Some in playtest, 2 of them in playtest, and 2 of them in production, in full versions of the game, which was absolutely fantastic. I also wanted to take the time now to thank as many people as I can, both companies excuse me, you can hear me losing my voice, and friends that I worked with or hung out with. And it's funny, you know, I mean, it sounds like a bad problem to have, or like not a bad problem to have, but so many people made it out to this Gen Con for their first Gen Con. And then I've been introduced to so many amazing people through the concept of my videos, working with other people on the channel and things like that, that there's too many awesome people that I want to hang out with and not enough time to do it. And it's like, it's really cool to be in that spot, to be like, you know, I like, we're trying to get everybody together, but you know, you ultimately can't. There's just too many cool people to hang out with. But I did want to take the opportunity, in case any of them are watching this, to thank folks we've already mentioned here on the channel: Sarah, Josiah, Taryn, you know, LB, Greg. But then other folks that I also got to hang out with: Jesse and Laura, Critical Bard, Celeste, Joe, all of the Cobalt team, all of the folks over at Alchemy, Dan of Nat One Fun, who you've seen on the channel in the Vecna One Shot, as well as the D&D movie review, Devin from Start Playing, Rahul and Cherie, everybody from the Start Playing team that was there, the entire Elderwood Academy crew, Will and Leah and everybody else from over at WizKids. You guys were awesome. It was great to see a bunch of, you know, familiar faces there. You know, everybody, David and everybody over from Evil Genius Games. So many awesome people that I got to hang out with or meet for the first time. And then so many of you. I was shocked at how many people found me and wanted to come up and talk to me, get a selfie, have me sign one of their books for them, just to hang out and chat, pick up some swag from me and stuff like that. And it was just absolutely humbling that so many of you like what I do and wanted to take time out of your busy Gen Con schedule to just have that one-on-one interaction with me. And it just means a lot, you know? I mean, you do a lot of stuff, you make all these videos on the internet, you throw them out there to the wild, and you know, it could go a lot of different ways, right? And unfortunately, some of my friends out there do have to deal with, you know, harassment from folks on there just making their day miserable. And that sucks when people are out there saying some of the horrible things that some of them told me they get in comments in their email box. And I'm very thankful that the majority of you, while some of you may disagree with me in the comments or may not like the way I present something, or you know, or you know, keep me honest, right? If I say something and then we find out that something's not true, and you guys can cite me the reason why that's not true, then I'll go and make a retraction or an apology video. If like I say something's like this and you say actually the math works out differently, then I'm gonna say, oh whoops, that's my bad. I messed that up. Let me go fix it. But you're just all so sweet, and just I really can't thank you all enough. I will be at PAX Unplugged again this fall, or this winter, I guess, because it's the first weekend in December, in Philly. I'd love to see you all again there. And as I said in some of the video, you know, pictures and stuff that I put out there, the only reason that I won't stop and chat with you is if you're running to an event or I have to get somewhere. But I love to talk, obviously. Here I am going on for 28 minutes just telling you what I did on my fun weekend away. But I just love you all so much. And you're a great, you know, you encourage me to keep doing what I'm doing. You also have been super encouraging for me to, when I want to branch out and try new things. Most of you are here because of Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of you are here for purely Dungeons and Dragons and RPG news coverage, a thing I never thought I would be in charge of or doing. But news seems to be something a lot of you like to hear from me. But, you know, if I do want to try to branch out and try something like covering an RPG that's not Dungeons and Dragons, there's still a lot of you out there that are not interested in D&D because of the OGL, and I respect that. But there were just as many of you out there that said, I still want you to cover D&D because I still want to know about it. So I really appreciate that you're willing to work with me and try different things, whether it's reviewing any of these starter sets or talking about anything else. I just really, really appreciate it. So thank you to everybody I met at the convention, all of the friends I mentioned, anybody I forgot to mention. If I left you out, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just every time I go to Gen Con or any convention really, you know, centered around tabletop, I get so jazzed when I'm getting ready to go. I have a whirlwind 3 or 4 days that just fills my heart and has me so motivated to go out and make more content. So, yeah, I've got a bunch of content planned for the future. I have a lot of stuff to continue to cover from what was already just done at Gen Con, stuff I was planning beforehand, and a whole bunch of stuff going forward that I'm really, really excited about, and I hope you are too. So once again, with the utmost sincerity, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.